Thank you, CINE EXPO, for this honor and inviting me. Thank you, Raghav. Thank you, everybody here. Uh, it's indeed an honor to be amongst what I call behind the scene people, because this world is generally run by behind the scene people, but somebody else gets the glory. That's the irony of life. I also wish you on this 75th Independence Day, or this Amrit Kal, and I hope that we are able to, in next 2 days, all of you sit and introspect and very honestly look at the business of cinema. Times have changed, everything has changed, projection systems have changed, the way we market cinema has changed, what you get inside the cinema hall has changed. From the largest samosa sellers to now we have largest popcorn sellers sitting with us. If everything has changed, we also need to introspect, are we also changing or not? A lot of huge businesses, companies like Xerox, companies like IBM, Polaroid, so many companies which were innovators, which created lifestyle products which sold all over the world, within no time they just disappeared because they refused to accept the reality. I just want to talk about a couple of things here. I honestly, in the context of India, there are two things which matter. One is food and the second is cinema. While food nourishes your body, nurtures your body, the way your body is going to shape up, but cinema in Indian life plays such an important role that you cannot imagine. Because it does not remain only to cinema. The music of that cinema becomes your life, your lifestyle. The characters of the cinema become characters of your family. It makes you laugh, it makes you cry, it shapes your mind. But the problem is sometimes things which shape your mind become such big monsters that we don't know how to handle them. I'll tell you what I believe. What are the 3-4 most urgent things Indian cinema needs to do? And I'm not talking in terms of Bollywood or Hindi cinema, I'm talking in general. We need to sit down and see that it's been 100 years, more than 100 years now, that Indian cinema has been existing. Why is it that our cinema till date has not become a global cinema? Small countries like Poland, Czech Republic, Germany, France, they make, even Korea now, Korea has taken over the entire world. It's very important for us to introspect what is the reason that nobody cares about our cinema except for our own people. Now when it comes to our own people, that Indians consume Indian cinema is also a myth, and we must admit it as soon as possible. We are 130 crore people. Can somebody tell me how many people watch cinema? Anybody can tell me what is the universe of cinema goers? Any guesses? No, you're wrong. I was reading Dangal had a footfall of some 3.5 crore. 3.5 crore people have watched Dangal, which is all time the biggest blockbuster. I was told by Z that my film, the Kashmir Files, the footfall has been in the range of 2.75 to 3 crores. Isn't this such a sad commentary? And rest of the film is consumed either on TV or OTT or pirated copies or on YouTube or on Telegram and other places. What we need to look at, anybody who's making a product, tell me if you're making a toothpaste, is it possible for you to be satisfied that such a small market size is consuming your product and most of your product is being sold under spurious goods? So we need to sit down and figure out where are we failing. I think where we are failing is that we have put too much of emphasis on the superficial things. Superficial, for example, popcorn. Popcorn will sell only when people will come in. Popcorn is not going to sell on its own. So this great packaging, I'm not talking in your context, I'm generally saying, how do you bring people in? How do you create new target segments? It's not that the target segments are not there. There are lots and lots of target segments are there. And I've spent all my life in advertising, and I can tell you, minimum 40 to 50 crore people are capable of watching cinema in India. And the average cinema goer pre-2000 was 3.1, which means a family consumed 3.1 films in a theater, in a cinema hall, in a month. That was the average middle class standard. And today it has come to once in a year or once in 3 months and something like that. That is happening because we are not investing in the basic machinery which creates the product. And what is the basic machinery? The basic machinery is storytellers. If I ask you which are the 5 best storytellers of India, you won't be able to name it, I guarantee you. You won't even know more than 1 or 2 names. If I ask you which are the films which put money in R&D, do you know of any industry in this world, in the history of industrialization, name one industry which doesn't put some money on R&D? Even a shopkeeper puts some money on researching. We are the only content industry which has zero budget when it comes to R&D. It's a very important issue, and we need to look at it. Because there is no R&D, we started making, see what is R&D? Research and development is not that you need to employ hundreds of people. It's basically to understand the pulse of the people, to understand what is it that people are looking for. When I joined this industry, every single filmmaker, anybody for that matter, good or bad, used to get writers, would sit with them in sitting room, producers and directors for months and months. And they will question everything. They will say, why this hero is behaving like this? No, ye to India mein hota nahi hai. If you see Yash Chopra, he got so many people from all over the world, all over the country to write lyrics, to write stories, get people from India. But somewhere in last 15 to 20 years, we have totally disconnected with the audience. And the reason I'm saying you're disconnected with the audience is that 98% of your population is not NRI. Most of the people are middle class people with Indian values, but you're making films which cater to the sensibility of people who don't live in India. Very rarely you get to see films which are based on Indian context, Indian conflicts, Indian ethos, Indian problems. Even when McDonald's come to India, it adapts to Indian market and they also start selling aloo tikki. It's unfortunate that this McDonald's called the film industry is in India, but we are catering to somebody else's taste. Who are you catering to? Who's your target audience? That is the first question we need to ask. And the problem with that is, if you see, I'll give you 2 indicators. You were saying boycott the boycott. I think Hindi film industry definitely is going to face the worst times. Until you connect with the audience, go back to the audience. The reason is, throughout the history in India, if you see, India is a conflicting society. Your hero has always without exception, been from a typical middle class Indian family who stands up ultimately to fight against injustice. And therefore you have a villain. Now if you look at all these films, there is no villain in our films. We have eliminated the villain. And there is no common person. Your hero is a rich guy, he's a stylish guy, he's a cool dude. Even if he becomes a dacoit, he has to be cool. Now that is where the problem lies. How will you connect? How long can you keep eating pizza and hamburger? At some point you say, yaar, mujhe dal chawal khilao, mujhe sambar, curd rice khilao. But nobody is willing to accept it. Nobody is willing to accept it, trust me. People are running away from this problem. People are running away from this problem because we are not investing in any R&D. You have no know-how. So I'll tell you, Kashmir Files is not a fluke, like a lot of people would like to paint it. And the reason I'm saying it, because there's been a lot of articles in last 1 month, and everybody was writing about that which films have done good business and which have not done good business. You'll find in the headlines, you'll see only 2 names, Bhool Bhulaiya and what was Alia Bhatt's film, Gangubai. And somewhere down in the copy they'll write, yes, Kashmir Files also did very big business, which means in their minds Kashmir Files is an exception. But let me tell you, very soon it's going to become a rule. Do you realize that the audience of Dangal and audience of any other Hindi commercial film is the same? It's a universe of 3-4 crore people. The same people see sometimes lesser people, sometimes more people, but the universe remains the same. Do you realize what we have done with the Kashmir Files? So let me share it with you. I realized that it was a COVID times. And people are going to be extremely hesitant to go back to theaters. My friend is sitting here, Akshay Rati, he's a great friend of mine, and we kept talking through COVID times what to do with the Kashmir Files. And that's when me and Pallavi, the producer of the film, we said it's very important people to get confidence that they can go and see the film in theaters. So we, risking our own lives during the COVID period, and especially when Omicron was at its peak, we traveled all over the world and we started inviting people in theaters. We started posting pictures of 400 people in theaters watching it together. Then the celebration around it. We did it for almost 4, 5, 6 months. Slowly then those videos and everything started coming out, and the audience also realized, the people who pay money, they also realized these people are willing to risk their lives for their film. What is this film all about? Number 1. Second thing, the film was ingrained in Indian problem. It was about India. It was about Indian people. So what it did, if you have this 3-4 crore people, if this is your universe for last 20-30 years, the Kashmir Files brought in new people, and if somebody should do some data point research, and you will find that more than 60 to 70% of the Kashmir Files audience is the new audience. People who had not seen a film in the last 15-20 years, they came to see films. Typical, you see all the pictures are on internet, you can see all those people who hate cinema, people who hate Bollywood, they came to see the film. And this is one thing I think in next 2 days you need to discuss. That why our films are failing. A, there is no common person, nobody addresses a common person's issues. There is no villain. If there is no villain, what is the conflict? Cinema is drama, then there is no drama. There is no conflict. Then it is just a celebration of a god. It's a celebration of a star. Most of your films are made to celebrate a star. Star goes down, your business goes down. So you're putting all your eggs in one basket. Last but not the least, I think promotion. And it's a very, very big issue, and this is where I think INOX, PVR, all of you need to intervene. And you have to figure out how to market films. You have to advise filmmakers and producers how to market films. Do a research. Pick up all the 10 or 15 films which have released recently. And just see how they are being marketed. People are saying Lal Singh Chaddha has not worked because of the boycott. That's a lie. Yes, some percentage, 5, 10, 15% people won't go. But tell me if 3 Idiots also released at this time, you will say it won't have any business. The problem is, you go and ask anybody on the street, what is Lal Singh Chaddha all about? Not one person can tell you what is this film all about. Same thing happened with another film recently. A film came immediately after the lockdown when the film started. The film was about female infecticide. About such a wonderful subject, and it appeals to India any time, any day. But nobody knew about it because the star of the film was dancing with girls on stage and they're promoting themselves. Are you promoting film or are you promoting a star? You have to decide that first. Everything has become a platform to promote the brand equity of stars. How can that business survive? You have to come back to the product, you have to come back to the brand. Every single company in the world where CEO became bigger than the brand, all those companies have shut down. All those businesses have shut down. And there are multiple examples, not one. Kingfisher you have seen. And there are hundreds of examples all over the world. Never ever make the mistake, it's an advertising thumb rule, never let the employees become bigger than the brand. Now it's up to you to decide what is your brand. Is your product the film or your product is a star? This is where we are going wrong. And last but not the least, the final thing, I think it's very, very important to relook at the pricing and the budgeting. If in any business in the world, any business, the business rules are the same. They have not changed in 100 years, they will not change in next 1,000 years. The rules of business are simple and the same. Any business where you spend more money in packaging it than manufacturing it will eventually die. If 70% to 80% of your film budget will go into vanity of a star, by vanity I don't mean vanity van, that business is bound to collapse and die eventually. Why nobody is addressing it, I'm surprised. How can you run cinema halls where in 1 year you'll have just 5 or 6 blockbusters? You should have at least 24 blockbusters in a year. Blockbusters mean films which are doing 500 crore plus, 1,000 crore plus business. If we are not doing that, then we are here just for fun. We are not doing serious business. And that's why we looked at the Kashmir Files as a very, very serious business, even the Tashkent Files. It was so difficult to get even theaters for Tashkent Files, screens, but eventually it ran for 100 days. And in the end, I would like to give a piece of advice and very humble request on behalf of all the filmmakers, small filmmakers, to all the theater chains, Inox, PVR, Cinepolis, whoever is here. Every corporate company has CSR budget. Every company now. Everybody does some corporate social responsibility. You do some good work. And anyway, you should do some good work. And everybody should invest in R&D. What if theater chains decide that we will pick up one small film every month, or maybe 2 if they deserve it, but they have to be deserving. Small doesn't mean you make trash and it's small, but some deserving small films, like the Tashkent Files or recently which came Rocketry. And you say, we will ensure that as theater chains, we will nurture these films and we will make sure, even if there is biggest of the films, we'll keep running this film for minimum 6 months. It's done in lots of places in the world. You run it. Unless you nurture these films, audience habits and tastes, you are destroying your own industry, trust me. You are creating a taste which you cannot sustain for a very long time. You have to bring back the audience to content, content and content. Storytelling which is rooted in India. So, thank you very much for honoring me. These were my few thoughts because I am equally concerned about this industry. And I am doing my best to revive the industry. With my next 2 films also, we are trying to do very different things. And I hope all of you will bless us and we will meet again. Thank you very much.